Saturday was a bit of a harrowing experience, and it feels like you can kind of narrow it down to the coach or the quarterback because they just needed a little bit more.
You are Locked On Bearcats, your daily podcast on the Cincinnati Bearcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Bearcats. Locked On Bearcats is part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team, your Bearcats, every single day, and we want to thank you for helping make Locked On the #1 sports podcast network in the country. My name is Jeff Carr, and I'm all Cincinnati all the time. I've worked in multiple athletic departments, and I've been a season ticket holder for the Bearcats football team for the last 7 seasons now, and I'm glad that you're alongside me here today, as Chad Brendel is as well, and we will give you our early week predictions looking at basketball against Louisville and football against BYU coming up later on this week. In a few minutes, we're going to look at what exactly the Bearcats need to do against Louisville on the basketball court on Friday for us to feel good about them. But we will begin with the football team and another loss in conference play that sends them into the fray. And who had the worst day? I didn't plan for all of that rhyming. I'm so sorry. And Chad Brendel's alongside me here today. He's the man that runs the funnest corner of the internet for Bearcats fans. Chad, what you got for me? I love this shaking your head at me. I love it.
Calm down, Dr. Seuss.
I did not plan that at all. Thank you so much for joining us here on this episode. This is brought to you by FanDuel, by the way. Make sure that you place your $5 wager. Your first $5 wager will get you $300 in bonus bets. Download the FanDuel app. Now, all right, Chad, Saturday stunk. Feels like the wind's out of my sails a little bit when it comes to this football team, and it feels like it was a reality check. But I don't think – I think a lot of folks love to put blame on two people, and I don't necessarily know that you can put the blame on any one person for that loss.
They didn't play well enough. Like, that was a collective. I think if that's what you're getting at, you're absolutely right. Like, you know, the defense played really well for a half. I thought they did it. At least they did a good job keeping Arizona out of the end zone, forcing them to take field goals. You almost block one, you block one. They obviously saw something there that they felt like they could get after Arizona's kicker. They did a good job of it. But the offense outside of those, they had the 2 drives in the first quarter where they took the lead, and then they had the drive in the fourth quarter. And other than that, like the thing that has been really frustrating as a collective this season, even when they have won and played well, is that it's been boom or bust. It's been touchdown or 3 and out. Like, it doesn't feel like there's any middle ground with this group. Once they get that first down and they get rolling, they're hot. But if they don't produce on the first play or two, it feels like a lot of 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, a lot of, you know, just clunkiness. I mean, they went, what, like almost a full quarter of real time without completing a pass between the second quarter into the second half. And that's the stuff that you're just not going to be all that successful when you play better teams. But I think people also need to have a little bit better understanding of, you know, I've watched a ton of Big 12 football this year. Texas Tech and Utah, talent-wise, are the elite teams in this conference. BYU is not far away from them. And then you get Cincinnati and Arizona, you know, Iowa State, Kansas, Baylor, TCU. Some of those teams are fading a little bit as the season goes on. Right. But when you look at those games against teams that are in about the same talent level as Cincinnati, they're 3-1. Like, they've played well against the middle to upper middle of this conference. They did not play well on Saturday. That was when we did our keys to the game last week. My number one key was your stars have to be stars when you play games like this. Brendan Sorsby did not have a good game. That Tawee Walker had 2 good carries in the first quarter. Other than that, he did not have a very good game. Joe Royer had 1 catch. Dante Corleone had 1 tackle. Jake Golday was great because Jake Golday is great.
Right.
But the upper portion of Cyrus Allen did not have a great game. The upper portion of your roster did not carry their weight. Noah Fafita, I think, was the second graded, maybe the first graded, best graded quarterback in all of college football this week. Arizona's best players had big days. Cincinnati's best players played like crap. And when that happens, I mean, the shocking thing to me, Jeff, they still had the ball with a chance to win in the final minute of the game and didn't play well. Really, I don't know there's anything I could look at and go, yeah, special teams had a pretty good day. But other than that, like, I don't think there's anything I could look at and go, yeah, man, these guys they were on top of their game on Saturday.
Yeah, because it seemed like early on they were able to win in the trenches on offense, and then Arizona just changed something up midway through the second quarter, and then that was it. They didn't seem to get much of a push in the run game, and even the passing game, there seemed to be some pressure on Brendan Sorsby.
They didn't get much push in the run game even early. If you go back and watch those plays, they escaped out the backside. Like there was nothing really at the point of attack. The one Tawee Walker run, I mean, he had to literally completely reverse field to get into open space. Arizona started walking their linebackers and their safeties up, and they started playing tighter at the line of scrimmage to slow down the run game. How do you beat that? Your quarterback and your wide receivers have to beat it. They've got to do the job of making Arizona pay for playing a different style than what they normally play. They walked everybody up. They said, we're not going to let you run the ball on us. And Cincinnati couldn't throw them out of it.
So then do you take this? Because I had problem like discussing this with a couple of people. Like, Brendan Sorsby didn't have the best day, but you also put on the fact that there were 5 drops. It seemed like everybody had a drop. It was like, the whole Oprah thing. You get a drop. You get a drop. Everybody got drops in this game. And on top of that, do you say, okay, well, then Brendan Sorsby's got to make another play? Or like, do you put – that's why it kind of feels like that collective blame. And there were a lot of folks that wanted to say, well, this is a coaching thing. It's like, I didn't feel like the game plan looked bad. It's just the execution was so lacking on anything that they were doing. And – the other part, like the defensive side of that too, was that the best that we can hope for the defense? Because it did feel like they played really well for a half, but like, is that it? Like, especially against BYU, and if the chips fall where they may, and somehow they still get to Dallas and they face Texas Tech, like, what's this defense going to look like against that team?
Look, they're doing the best they can with what they have.
Yeah,
they do not have, so this thing right now is being built through the portal, right?
Yeah,
they're still
a lot
in
of seniors.
That stage.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but that's you had to rebuild an entire roster.
Right.
You can do it one of 2 ways. You can build it through the portal, like they have, and get competitive.
Yeah,
or you can just start from scratch and just start all young. And then you're really going to take your lumps for 2 or 3 years. Then your coach gets fired, and all that rebuilding you did goes for naught because all the players transfer portal, and then you start the rebuild over again. So what are when you look at the portal, what are the 2 highest value commodities on defense in the transfer portal?
Pass rusher and defensive back.
Corner. More so than safety. There's you can find some safeties out there, but pass rusher, defensive back, those unless you find a Jake Golday at linebacker, like just a diamond in the rough that's been sitting at some D2 school somewhere that got overlooked in the recruiting process and all developed late, whatever you want to say, you have to develop that stuff internally. And the young guys are redshirt freshmen or freshmen. Like, those aren't guys you win with at this level. So they've done the best that they can in terms of like patchworking the defense and getting a unit out there that can still keep you competitive. But they don't have a lot of dominant players on defense. And when you play a passing attack like Arizona, you can do your best to hold them at bay for a while, but they're going to have success. They're going to get going. Their guys are probably better than your guys, and their guys are going to make some plays. Now, you can fight and keep them out of the end zone as often as UC did because, geez, I mean, that you look at the yardage, you look at the amount of times that they were deep in Cincinnati territory, the number of plays they took. There's 40 plus plays in Cincinnati territory, and your defense is on the field for 36 minutes. How long can you realistically expect those guys to hold up when your offense is going 3 and out all day, and then you're asking your defense to do the work of a top 10 defense? And this is not a top 10 defense.
Right. Yeah, it was a frustrating day for sure. And the good news is the men's basketball team got a win on Sunday, although people still seem mad about that. And they're heading into Louisville on Friday. There's a couple of keys that I take away from Sunday that I'm looking for this coming Friday. We'll talk about that next. If you've been looking to get into the game over on FanDuel, there's no better time than right now. You can place a $5 wager for your first wager, and if it wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. And there's so many great things to take a look at now within the NBA going on, NCAA basketball going on, football, all the different things, hockey even as well. And that $5 is well spent on like a money line or something like that, where you've got pretty good odds to win, because you will never find odds of placing $5, getting $300 on a bet that's likely. Like that's talking about like some crazy parlay stuff, turning $5 into $300. So you got to go check out FanDuel right now. I'm looking at the point spread for the Bearcats right now. It's the Bearcats are laying 7 points. I don't know how I feel about that early on in the week. Got to see some injury updates and stuff like that before I go too crazy, but that's worth monitoring as the week goes along. That's all over on FanDuel. Again, new users place a $5 wager, and if it wins, you get $300 in bonus bets. Download FanDuel today. Thank you for making Locked On Bearcats part of your day. I invite you to make it part of your everyday routine. Hit that subscribe button right here on YouTube or on your favorite podcast app, because we're free and available everywhere you get your podcast. All right, Chad. So a win against Mount St. Mary's, 72-55. And because they didn't win by 150, I think people are mad. The interesting part is, and I keep going back to this, and I will say it until I'm blue in the face. It's November. And if you play your best basketball in November, then you're not a very good basketball team. So there's a lot of development that's going on. There's a lot of new things that are going on because they're trying to play fast. They're trying to shoot threes, and that's just not something they've done in the Wes Miller era. And so they were able to win by shooting 21% from three. I feel like I am happy with that, and knowing that they're going to have better days makes me a little bit bullish on this offense heading into Louisville, at least to make the game competitive, because I kind of feel like that's just what I'm looking for here.
Yeah, I don't know how great I feel about Friday night. I think Louisville's Final Four.
They're a national championship. Yeah.
So I don't, it's down at Heritage Bank. Those are notoriously the worst rims, the tightest rims in the country. So, maybe Louisville will shoot 7% from three like Dayton did.
That'd be nice.
But to Mount St. Mary's, I think one of the big things, especially early in the first half, or most of the first half, they played poor team defense. I think they have so much. I think actually, if you look at Evan Maya, who does like player analytics, they have 4 of the top rated defenders in the country. In the top 10, 4 in the top 10. Baba Miller, Mustafa Cham, Sincere Harris, Dede Thomas. But I think they got a little lazy, a little overconfident in the fact that they have great individual defenders, because in that first half yesterday, or Sunday, the team defense stunk. There was no communication. If you watched, they weren't talking. They weren't calling out what was happening. There was no connectivity on defense, and it resulted in a lot of wide open threes for Mount St. Mary. Credit them. They knocked down their wide open threes. And when you let a mid-major team, a low-major team, shoot a high percentage from three, you get the first half that Cincinnati had. And they've got to learn defensively. Yes, they have incredible individual talent defensively. They're number 2 in KenPom in defensive efficiency. I don't think they're the number 2 defense in the country at this point. I think they have the ability for that, but they've got to learn as a unit. We still have to talk. We still have to communicate. If teams are moving the ball, we're not going to be able to just rely on one-on-one, our guy is better than you defensively. So especially I think that first half, I think that first half is a good teaching point for Wes Miller in this group. And I think you saw as the second half wore on, that connectivity kind of returned, and they were doing a much better job. The Lipscomb kid had 13 in the first half, 1 in the second. And I think the connectivity got better as the game wore on. But if you're looking for why it looked like it did in the first half, they couldn't make a shot. And Kirk Creesa had 3 threes, literally, that were 2/3 of the way down and popped out. And that opens up the offense when you start to make some shots. Well, why didn't you throw it down low? They were planning for that. They were packing it in. They're swarming at the ball. Anytime the ball entered low, you got to make some shots to shoot them out of it. Fortunately, Dede Thomas did a little bit, and Keyshawn Tillery. But, nobody in college basketball in 2025, very few teams are going to look good in November. At least consistently look good in November. That's just how it works.
Too much roster movement. Yeah.
They're guys are just now figuring out how to play with each other. Coaches are just figuring out what's my best rotations. What do I need when my team needs this? Where do I sub? Where am I getting my bench guys in to be most effective? That's what November is going to look like now, folks. Somebody said it on the Bearcat Journal message board last week. Remember how Kentucky always used to look like this when Kentucky was the one team that had the new roster every year and all freshmen, and in November everybody like, man, they stink. And then you get to February and all of a sudden they're great. That's not to say Cincinnati's going to be 2012 Kentucky, but you get my point in that everybody is still figuring each other out. And then you have a sleepy Sunday 6:00 tip-off in between Dayton and Louisville. They won by 15. Like, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah, they did what they were supposed to do this early on. Because you're right. Like, I used to live down in Kentucky around that time, especially when John Calipari just got started at UK. And trust me, the pitchforks and the torches were out in November, and then they turned to fold out chairs and everybody waiting for tickets at the SEC championship in March. So that's just how things ended up. And I'm not saying that that's exactly what's going to happen here, but there's so much development and there's so much talent on this team that it's clear that they're going to be able to really be a fun team down the stretch. I think with this Louisville game, because Louisville, and speaking of Kentucky, Louisville boat raced the crap out of Kentucky. Not last week. I think it was like last Tuesday.
Well, it ended up being close, but for 30 minutes, Louisville was clearly the better team.
Just laid on them for 30 minutes. And I think that ultimately that's the team that the Bearcats have to be a little bit worried about, is that how quickly they can get up on the scoreboard, because they want to play fast too. This could be a very high scoring game so long as the Bearcats are able to shoot alongside them. And if they don't limit them enough on defense. So I kind of just circle it and say, you know what, just keep it competitive. Don't get ran out of the building. Don't lose by 30 or something like that, which I think that there's some folks believe that will happen because they just think they know who this Bearcats team is in November.
And they don't. No. They don't, because the team doesn't fully know yet who this team is in November. Now, the one thing that I think you can, if you're looking at how this Louisville game is going to play out, look, if Cincinnati's ice cold and can't make a shot, Louisville's probably going to control the game. But individual defensively, like we talked about earlier, Cincinnati has enough bodies to at least somewhat keep Louisville in check. Now, Louisville's got an NBA point guard in Michael Brown, who is outstanding. They've got quality depth up front. They've got shooters on the wing. If you're letting them execute their offense, that are going to be trouble to deal with. But for the most part, Cincinnati should be able to defend at a high enough level to keep the game reasonable. And you see where you go from there. Like, hopefully your shooting is more like it looked against Dayton than it looked against Mount St. Mary's. And you can make some shots from the perimeter. And sometimes you have to be the lesser team that needs to make threes to put a little game pressure on the opponent. They're going to need Kerr Kriisa. They're going to need Jalen Celestine. They're going to need Sean Abayev to be able to stretch the defense and open up some driving lanes and open up what Cincinnati wants to do offensively. But yeah, both these teams play fast. There's going to be a lot of possessions. It's going to be a lot of up and down. Take care of the basketball and defend at a reasonable level. Like, you're playing against a team with really, really high level talent. You can play the best defense in the world and they're still going to get points.
Right.
But you can't. Louisville's going to go on a 7-0 run, a 9-0 run. What you can't do, Jeff, you can't let that become a 15-2 run, an 18-3 run, because then the snowball's rolling downhill. Now you're down by 12, 13 points and you're cooked. So that's going to be some of the stuff as we get into the week that I'm going to be talking about and watching for.
There's one key stat from the Mount St. Mary's game that I think makes me feel a little bit better about the Louisville game, and we will tell you exactly what's going to happen at Nip at Night coming up next. I encourage you to keep the conversation going after the show is over. You can follow me on Twitter at Jeff Carr with 3 Fs, and you can follow me on TikTok with the same username there. You can follow Chad at Chad Brendel on Twitter, and your TikTok. No, you said that's still in the works. That's okay. And then you can follow.
I've got a TikTok. It's just at Bearcat Journal, but there's not.
Oh, yes.
I don't have time. There's only so many hours in a day, and I just haven't found time to TikTok. Do I dance? Do I dance while I talk Bearcats? Do I do the dance routines and talk Bearcats?
There's that guy, Josh, JAWSH. I feel like there could be a lot of good sounds that we could do for Bearcats.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's just a random thought. Looking at this weekend, and I'll start with the basketball team since we were talking about them, and then we'll kind of transition a bit into the BYU game. I have reasonable confidence. I'm not going to say I'm guaranteeing this, but I have reasonable confidence that we won't see a lot of games where Kerr Kriisa and Sean Abayev go 1 of 15 from. Correct. Because of that, I just think that they're going to be interesting against Louisville. Now, what does Bobby Miller and Mustafa Cham do against their post play? What does Dante Thomas do against an NBA point guard in Michael Brown? That's going to be a harder thing to answer, but I just feel like the Bearcats were really held back by the fact that two guys who I think will be a big part of their long-range shooting weren't. And so for that reason, I feel like it's going to be a fun game to watch from a basketball sense, and I just don't see the Bearcats getting completely outclassed in this game. I still think it's kind of a snowball's chance in hell that they pull off the upset, but I think it's going to be a fun game to watch from our perspective.
I agree for the most part. I mean, like I said, the biggest thing will be how does Cincinnati handle the inevitable Louisville run, and can they stop it before a paper cut turns into a gunshot wound. That's the important thing to me. Okay, Louisville gets 2 stops. They score 8 points around those 2 stops. Can you come down, run good offense, get something set up, and have an answer? Perfect example, the Dayton game. Dayton gets that thing all the way down to 2 and looking like, we're going to be nip and tuck the rest of the way. And over the next 2 minutes, Cincinnati hits a 12-2 run.
Right.
And all of a sudden, they're back to comfortable and the lead's 12 and you're kind of shadow boxing the rest of the night. Like, that's the big thing for me, is handling the adversity of that, because this is, again, a new team that really hasn't faced much adversity yet. It's coming, but they haven't faced it yet. And when it's different when you face it against Mount St. Mary's than it is when you play a top 10 team, top 10 level team in Louisville that, they're just supremely talented and a really well-constructed, I think Pat Kelsey's put a really well-constructed roster together down there in terms of, you've got a really good point guard, you've got shooters on the wing, you've got size and depth on the interior. Like, you've got some depth on the bench. You've got a style that you're playing that fits your players. That makes them really difficult to anticipate a path to victory for Cincinnati.
Yeah, I am intrigued, even just as a basketball fan, just to see how this game rolls with a lot of talent on both sides of the floor. It's going to be fun watching that on Friday night. And then, of course,
I will say this. I will say this before we're done. This is where you hope playing Michigan and playing Arkansas in the preseason pays off, because you have seen two really good teams.
Yep.
I think Louisville's better than both of those teams, but you have played and it wasn't structured and there wasn't scouting and whatever, but talent on talent, you've played two really good teams. Now let's see if that strategy by Wes Miller pays off when you get Louisville at Heritage Bank on Friday night.
And can you set up a trampoline to vault you into the other matchups in your non-conference of Clemson and Georgia and that team from Norwood and all that stuff? Can you take this game, grow from that, and just go crazy in those other matchups too? That'll be a big factor for me as well.
Yeah.
Thinking Saturday night, I'm glad that we finally get Nippert night kickoff. I was hoping that it wasn't contingent upon a win. Like, I thought, like, if they win, it should be obviously be a Nippert night kickoff. But the fact that it was still an 8 p.m. kick against BYU helps for them, since they're 2 hours behind and all that stuff time zone wise. But at the same time, like, this is going to be such a weird matchup, and that I feel like BYU just wants to run you into the ground. And I don't think they face that team. I mean, they get
Utah,
a few
Utah
throws
to run you. No, Bear Bachmeier's throwing for like 300 yards a game lately. Utah wants to run. Utah wants to line up 6 offensive linemen and a 300-pound tight end, and just plow you at the line of scrimmage.
I think I blocked that game from my memory. I think that's what I'm trying to do.
No, BYU can beat you via the pass. Now, they do want to run. They've got a really good running back in KJ Martin. They're physical. It's not KJ Martin. That's the wrong name, isn't it? I think I called him that earlier. LJ Martin.
Yes.
Sorry. Utah's very physical. I would say they're similar to Utah. They're not direct one-on-one, one-to-one knockoffs. Utah's pass defense is better. That's the thing, going back to the 3 losses and how it relates to this. The pass defense is what has caused Cincinnati the most problems. Yes. Nebraska, Utah, and Arizona are all top 7 in the country in pass defense.
Right.
BYU's in like the upper 20s, lower 30s. So they're still really good, but they're not elite. So that gives Cincinnati a little bit of a chance in that regard. And I was looking at this and getting my stuff ready for the week. On the road this year, BYU beat Colorado on the road 24-21.
Oh.
BYU beat Arizona on the road 33-27. Close game. BYU beat Iowa on the road 41-27. But that game was very close going into the fourth quarter. BYU outscored Iowa State 14-0, in the fourth quarter, and made that game look a lot more lopsided than it was. And then they lost and were dominated pretty much against Texas Tech 29-7 on the road. This is a much different BYU team at home than it is away from home. So that opens the door a little bit for me. And we've been begging for this, right?
Right.
Nippert night, gotta have it. You still have a path to Dallas.
You do.
You don't control your path anymore. But guess what? Arizona State last year, with 2 weeks left in the regular season, did not control their path to Dallas. What they do? They went out, they won the last 2 games. They let the chips fall where they may. And next thing you know, they're in the college football playoff. So there's a lot to play for.
Yep.
There can't be 7,000 empty seats in Nippert Stadium like there was on Saturday.
No.
I get it. The noon games wear on people. That was a team that had 1 loss in the conference and was playing for a chance to win a conference championship, and 7,000 people didn't show up.
That was part of my prediction too.
Come on.
Right. That was part of my prediction too, is like the home field advantage was taken away before kickoff.
Well, the home field advantage was kind of taken away on the first snap when
that too. Like the extra bit where you needed those seats filled wasn't there. And then Brendan Sorsby throws the most ill-advised pass I've seen him throw all year. And then everybody's just shocked. And we're like, what's going on? And obviously I don't think we're going to see that, hopefully, to begin the BYU game. But like I saw, like, tickets on the secondary market right now are not cheap. So I'm hoping that means that this is going to be a packed house, especially for Nippert night. But ultimately, you're right. Like this is what we've been begging for. Now we got to show it. We got to show up and just shout BYU back to Utah.
Yep.
And help out this team, because it feels like a lot of folks have written off the season for dead, and it's not.
It's not. It's not. Well, here's the other problem, Jeff. The game's sold out. There's going to be a lot of blue.
Yeah. Yeah, they travel well.
It's a national fan base, right? It's a religion. And guess what? People in the Midwest don't often get out to Provo to make it to BYU games. So when they see there's a game coming, they all buy the tickets. Yep. And they show up. There is going to be, I hate to say it, I think there's going to be a lot of BYU blue in Nippert Stadium on Saturday night. You better shut them up.
Yep.
You better shut them up.
Yep. It's going to be a tough one. All right. Laying 7. I don't feel good about that early on in the week.
I don't know where I don't see 7. The line I saw is 2.5.
2.5? Oh man.
2.5.
FanDuel, maybe that got bought up. That's interesting. I'll take that though. 2.5.
Yeah. The line I saw was 2.5.
That feels real. Man, I really think, because they're gonna run more zone, yeah? BYU's gonna run more zone.
They run more zone than Arizona and Utah, but they do play a lot of man. Now, they don't have the talent at corner that those two teams have had, but they're still good. It's not to say that, again, we're in this sports existence, Jeff, where it's either great or fired.
Right.
No middle ground. But like Arizona and Utah have secondaries that are up here. BYU's is like here, right? It's still good, but it's not at an elite level like those two schools are with their pass defense. Sorsby's going to have to play better. The receivers are going to have to play better. And the line is going to have to deal with BYU trying to be ultra aggressive and trying to get after Brendan Sorsby, because the book is out on that, right? If you let him sit back there, he's going to be really good. So you got to send 5. You got to send 6. If you're Utah, sometimes you send 7.
Yeah.
Because Kyle Whittingham is nuts. But your best players have to have great games.
Yep.
On Saturday.
And have 5 drop. Can't have 5 drops. Can't do that. That's going to be another loss if that happens.
Can't go 4 and out on 4 out of 5 drives between your touchdown in the first quarter and your touchdown in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, it did feel like when they got a first down, was it a first down in the third quarter? It was like, geez, it's been 84 years since they got a first down. Like, this is crazy.
84 years.
84 years. Hopefully we won't be talking about that on Saturday. But Chad, I appreciate you, man. Thanks for joining me on today's episode. And thank you for checking out today's Locked On Bearcats podcast. Make sure you make it part of your everyday routine by hitting that subscribe button on your favorite podcast app, because we're free and available everywhere you get your podcasts. Now, make sure you check out Locked On Big 12. Sure, Drake Toll's going to tell you all about why BYU is going to beat UC. Talks a lot about BYU. But you go check that out. Just like Locked On Bearcats, it's free and available everywhere. And we will be back with you tomorrow.